To get started, you're going to need your crochet hook and some wool, obviously. And the crochet hook is measured with a number, and it's also measured with a letter. Now, I don't really know what the letters stand for. I mean, I know it's the number, but I never remember which one's which. But I always recognise it by the number there. So for this one, I'm using a 6mm crochet hook and some slightly thicker than normal wool. The reason for that is I think when you're starting out, it's a lot easier to see where the stitches are when you're trying to work out what you're doing. For example, you can use finer wool like this, for which you would probably use, say, a 3.5mm like this one, or a 2.5, depending on what kind of pattern you're using. But the only problem is it's a bit harder to see what you're doing when you're using finer wool. So as a starting point, I definitely recommend something like this. You could go even finer with something like crochet cotton like this, but that's even harder. But that's for really detailed work. It is good for detail, but when you're starting, when you're just practicing and getting yourself used to what you're doing, I definitely recommend something thicker. So that's what I'm going to use for now. Right, to get started on your first row, you'll take your wool and make a slip knot. To do that, you make a circle, and then you take this tail end and pull it through the circle like that. But you don't pull it all the way through to make a traditional knot. You want to make a loop like that. So once you've made your loop, you get it onto the hook, and then you tighten it up, but not too much. You want to leave a little bit of a gap like that so that you can work your next stitch into it. So then, taking the wool that you're working with, you'll wrap that around your hand and then catch it with this finger so that you're pulling it above the hook here. Now, there is a proper way of doing this, which I haven't been able to master, even though I've been crocheting for ages. But I thought, well, I'm going to show that anyway, because some people might feel like they're struggling to do that too. And I wanted to show that even if you can't get your head around that, it doesn't mean that you won't be able to crochet, because I've never been able to do it, and yet I've crocheted loads of things now. So I just wrap it around twice like that, and then hold it up there and hold these threads here, just so that I can loosen them or tighten them when I want the wool to move and when I want it to stop. So getting it round like that, you get the wool up there above the hook, take this finger and this thumb like that, and then taking the hook in this hand. Some people hold it like that, some people hold it like this. Hold it however you feel comfortable with. The thing is, all that matters is that you make the thing that you wanted to make. However you made it doesn't really matter, as long as you get there in the end. That's the way I console myself with the fact that I might not do it the traditional way. But anyway, holding the knot there with these two, you get the hook, and then you move the hook round here and then twist the hook to pull it through this loop you made for your slip knot. And then for your next one, you're pulling it round again, twisting and pulling it through the loop you just made, like that. Going round, twisting it and pulling it through the loop you just made. And remember, don't make these too tight or you'll really struggle to pull anything through them. So you need to have a little bit of a gap with each one. So you're pulling that through and then twisting it like that. Going through like that. So each time you're just moving your hook round here and then twisting it to pull through. And then you make as many stitches for your foundation chain as your pattern wants, or if you're measuring it out to a particular length for a pattern that you're just making off the top of your head, you'll just make it until it's as long as you want it to be. And as you work it, you'll notice that it starts to look a bit like a plait pattern. So you just keep going like that until you've got it as long as you want it to. And as you're working along, you'll notice that I move my fingers up a bit, and that just keeps that bit steady while I'm working the loops. And then once you've got it, as long as you want it, you can move on to doing the next row. And I'm going to show that in a separate video.